Hello, uh, and welcome to Take 4. I'm Donna from Roots and Rain Yarns. I'm going to say it again. If you're here, you probably know that, but that's who I am. Take 4. Uh, yeah, yeah. You know, if you know me, if you've been here before, you know that the technical side of the Roots and Rain empire the Roots and Rain, the technical side of the business is not my thing. But you're not here for the technical part. You're not here to judge the lighting, the fact that I'm looking at the wrong place yet again. You're here for the knitting and the dyeing and the talking about patterns, and yeah, you're not here for that. So this is take 4. The first 2 takes just didn't work. I'm using my phone today because the last time, if you were here last time, you know that I went way over and I had to break my video in half. So I have a timer. So if I keep looking up, it's the timer, and I'm going to keep myself on track today. And B, I used my iPad last time and I had it turned sideways. So when I posted it, I had to flip it, and then I was this small little thing in the middle of the, yeah. Okay, so here we go. Take 4. It's going to be short and sweet, and it's going to work this time. So I have a little plan. The last time I talked to you, I think I just tried to jam way too many things in, and that's why it went so long. So I'm going to talk about one yarn today. I'll talk about what that yarn is dyed with, but I'm only going to go into detail about one of the dyes. And I'm also going to chat a little bit today about podcasts, if I remember, and a few of my favorite things. A couple of the podcasters I follow have been posting a few of their favorite things recently, and I really enjoyed that. And one of the podcasters said, I don't want to come across as selling things or pushing products. And, I didn't take it that way at all. It was actually really nice. It's nice that's part of the reason why we watch podcasts and why we're on Instagram, and because it's to see some other things and find some new things and see maybe different patterns that somebody else is knitting, or different products that somebody else is using, or find other small businesses. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. One yarn, one in-depth dye, a few podcasters, and a few of my favorite things. And my plan is to keep this short and in the allowable time that Instagram will allow me. So first I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I'm using up valuable seconds here. And tell you about one of my favorite things. So this is a new mug I just bought for myself, and I'll hold it back here so you get a better perspective. It is big. It is a big, big one, but it's not that big. This is by Meg of Meg's Pottering. Meg is local to me. She makes the Roots and Rain mugs, but she also makes lots of other beautiful things. So this is a new one that I just bought myself. It was a birthday present to me, from me, and I'm a big advocate of gifts to you from you. So if you have the means, if you have the ability, if you have, buy yourself a gift every once in a while. I'm also drinking one of my favorite things, is Kicking Horse Coffee, which is also a Canadian coffee company. This is a big mug of full fuel caffeine coffee. I needed it today. It's gray, it's cold, it's rainy. But that's okay. We need the rain for the garden. I've been in the garden. It's probably been raining on and off for about 3 days. Today it's been raining all day. Kind of that nonstop rain all day. Although I looked out a few minutes ago and I'm facing my garden right now, and the rain was actually blowing sideways. And I have a service berry tree. There's some other names for that too. But service berry tree. Just in my right hand view here, and it's flowering, and the flowers were blowing sideways. So Yeah, but the rain's great for the garden. The robins are back here where I live in Canada. The robins go south for the winter. They migrate south, and they're back, and they're in the garden. And every time I'm out there digging, the robins are out there happily eating the worms and bugs and grubs that I'm digging up. So, but on to, you know what, I'm going to talk about podcasters first right away before I forget. So a few of my favorite podcasters, and it's just a nice way to, that's how I found podcasters. I think before the world turned upside down, before all this started, before lockdowns, before it all happened, I think I had maybe watched 5 podcasts. But one of the delightful things that I found during lockdown, being home, is podcasts. There's probably a handful, half a dozen maybe, that I watch now, and they're delightful. It's a lovely way to visit, to chat, to see what's going on out there, to stay connected. Most of the podcasts I watch are knitting related podcasts. So a few of my favorite podcasts, and I'm going to try to be really efficient and link them below. Kate from The Last Homely House is absolutely delightful. Kate from Hawthorne Craft Cottage, who is actually knitting right now with the yarn that I'm going to talk about today. Selma of Little Big Knits, who is in Ottawa and lives within walking distance to me. There's lots more. But those are just a couple that are coming to my mind right now. So if I forgot you, I'm sorry. But those are just a few I've been watching lately. So you know what I'm going to jump into that will just lead me right into the yarn and the podcast that I'm going to talk about. So the yarn that I'm going to talk to you about today, and I'm watching my timer. If I didn't say it already, every time I look up, I'm looking at the timer to keep myself on track. Because if you know me, and if you've been here, I'm a talker. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about one yarn only, field sock. I feel like I should go, ta-da! Field sock is a sport weight Canadian wool, of course, Canadian wool, Canadian milled, Canadian sheep. It is a sport weight, and I'm going to hold that guy up there so you can see hopefully focus on the yarn and not on me. And if I hold it right about there, that's the perfect lighting. If I'm struggling as usual with lighting a bit today. So that right there is the accurate color. And I'm going to tell you as I go along the yarn because people will ask me. So this is field sock. It's all field sock today. That's all I'm going to talk about. Marigold and iron batch 955. And all of the yarn I'm going to talk about today will be in my next shop update, which is Sunday, May 9th, 11 a.m. Which I also realized after I decided on that date was Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day in advance. You don't have to be a mother. Happy day, happy Sunday. So field sock is a sport weight sock yarn. And I introduced this this yarn in early 2020. It was was one of the yarns that I was introducing to take with me to Knit City in Montreal, which didn't happen. It'll happen again one day. So it actually has never been to a festival with me. It was died and was to be brought to Knit City, and so I ended up just launching it on Etsy. Field sock did get off to a little bit of a slow start. I wonder if that's backwards. Is that backwards for you? It got off to a little bit of a slow start, and I think the reason is because, well, the number one reason is because Donna from Roots and Rain is not technical and not terribly good at advertising. I dye yarn. That's what I'm good at. Yeah, the other stuff just sort of doesn't always, yeah. Well, anyway, you're here, so you probably know that. But it's a sport weight sock yarn, and we're used to fingering weight sock yarns, so I think that throws us a little bit. which actually is, I'm going to go to the side here, which actually is why I ended up writing a pattern for this yarn, because when I first started playing with it and the dye pots dyeing with it, practicing with it, at that time I think the only sport weight yarn that I was getting to play with was tuku wool sock yarn, which is beautiful, which is a very, very similar weight to the field sock. And I couldn't find a pattern on Ravelry, so I made up my own. You can find that pattern on Ravelry. If you're not able to access Ravelry, it is also available on my Etsy shop, and it is the Northern Comfort sock pattern, and I'm gotta talk faster now. So this is a pair of Northern Comfort socks knit in field sock yarn. This is knit according to pattern. And this is a pair that I knit Scrappy for the Blueberry Fields Mitten and Sock Scrappy knit along this year. Hello, Monique, if you're watching. And it's the same pattern. I just knit them slightly longer and I didn't rib them. So it is the same pattern, same number of stitches. It looks that much wider because it's not ribbed. These stretch out when you put them on. They stretch out to a regular size leg. So this pair of ladies size 8 socks in I wouldn't say they're ankle length, but they're shorter than maybe other socks. I wear Blundstone boots, and these will come to the top and stick out the top of my boots, which I like. This pair of socks weighs 44 grams. I just weighed them. They weigh 44 grams. A skein of field sock weighs 115 grams. So I can generally get 2 pairs of lady socks out of one skein. What I will often do is take 2 skeins and I will knit a pair of men's socks for my husband. So for example, if I knit him a pair of purple socks, I would put then the green heels and toes, and then I would still have enough for myself for a pair of green and another pair. So I can, for me, I can get 3 pairs of socks and have some left over out of 2 skeins. So they're really a lot of value in a sport weight sock yarn. So like I said, it got off to a bit of a slow start, I think just because we're not used to it. It's quite rustic. When we're buying yarn online, it's always a bit tricky. But I will say that I don't know what's really happened in the last couple of months, but you love this. It's probably one of my best-selling yarns. I'm having a really hard time keeping it in Etsy. This is going to be one of the yarns featured in the update. There's a lot. I've been dyeing this stuff. It's lovely. So, which leads me to combining this yarn and podcasters. So I've been watching the Knit My Way Home podcast, which is a lovely podcast. It's a mother and daughter, Loretta and Natalia, Knit My Way Home. You can see the light is doing funny things as the clouds move around. And I don't normally join knit-alongs. I'm not a knit-along knitter. I don't really knit well to deadlines. But I decided to join theirs because it's a beautiful pattern. But what I really liked is they cast on the spring equinox and casting off. We're going to cast off on the summer solstice, but they were lovely and delightful and said, if you don't finish, that's okay. You're still welcome. If you finish, wonderful. If you don't finish, that's okay too. And I liked that. I liked that flow and that no pressure. And they're delightful. Like I said, they're a mother and daughter. And if you know me, follow me here, you know probably that I also knit with my own daughter, who is Jess from Homebody Knits. So it's just and they're lovely. They're in the Yukon, which is in Canada, north of me. And we are knitting the Kiruna shawl by, and I'm terribly sorry, Rania Hatelko. That's not right, but I tried. It's a beautiful shawl, and Kiruna is the Finnish word for ptarmigan, and we have ptarmigans here in Canada. And I have my shawl in this beautiful bag by, again, one of my favorite things. Look at that patchwork. By Blueberry Fields. Monique of Blueberry Fields made this, especially for me. Thanks, Monique. So I am knitting my Kiruna shawl out of field sock because it's not just for socks, even though it's called sock, and it's beautiful. So I'm using the Marigold and Iron colorway, which now I can't remember if I talked about already, but that green is Marigold and Iron. This is the exact same one that I'm using, batch 955, that will be in my shop. And the garter is beautiful, just beautiful in this yarn, in this rustic, heathered, lovely, my little stitch marker from Homebody Knits. So I haven't gotten very far, but that's okay. I've been really busy with my dye pots the last couple of weeks, so not a lot of knitting, but that's okay. So I have 2 skeins put aside for mine. According to pattern, it'll take 2 skeins. I did put a 3rd skein aside just because I'm using a bigger needle. I'm knitting mine on a 4.5 millimeter needle because my my yarn is thicker. I started on a 4, and it was just a little too tight for me. So I have put a 3rd skein aside, but I don't see myself needing it. And if I do break into it, that's okay. I'll just use it for socks. Makes great socks. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the field sock yarn and keep myself on track. So next I have a logwood and acorn. Oh, and that's the right color right there. I'm trying to move it in and out so that we get the right color. It's a beautiful grayed purple. The purple comes from the logwood, and the graying effect comes from the acorn. This is a field sock is a heathered yarn anyway, so there's always going to be some heathering to it, just varied degrees. So this is logwood and acorn, batch 956, and I'm not going to talk about acorn because I talked about it last time, and I promised I'd only talk about one dye stuff. The next one is logwood and marigold, and you can see it's predominantly marigold. Marigold makes the yellow, and then the logwood, I just added a little bit of logwood to gray that yellow down a bit, tone that yellow down a bit, whereas you can see that this marigold with the iron added, if I come back here, we'll get rid of the purple, that might be distorting it. So you can see this one with the iron is green, and this one logwood and marigold is definitely yellow, but a toned down earthy heathered yellow. And then I have more logwood. I'm trying to sort of stick with a theme here. Logwood and madder. Oh, look at that, that matches me. Yeah, logwood and madder. So that's like a rusty, yeah, we'll call that rusty, earthy. You know, there's even a bit of pink to that though. Rusty, but it's definitely not brown. It's a pinky rusty. There we go. If you notice, I painted my nails today, and if you know me, that's pretty unusual. I stuck my hands in some rather silly yellow dye earlier this week and turned my nails yellow, so I decided to paint them. And then this one is a melting pot. Did I say what batch that was? 957 logwood and madder. 951 melting pot, and a melting pot is exactly what it sounds like. See, if we hold these together, they're similar, but this one's much more pinky, rusty, and this one leans more towards an earthy brown. Melting pot. So what melting pot is exactly what it sounds like. At the end of a few days of dyeing, I take all the dye that I have left, and it's not leftover dye per se, it's dye that isn't soaked up in the first dye, and I don't want to waste that in the first batch, so I will mix it together. So this one has marigold, goldenrod, and a bit of ethically sourced cochineal, just to sort of pink it up a little bit. I'm not going to talk about all those different dyes. I promised I would just talk about one because I'm looking at the timer and I'm running out of time. So I'm going to talk about one dye that is in almost all of the yarn that I talked about today, and that's logwood. So logwood is a tree. It does not grow in Canada. It grows in warmer climates. southern United States, Mexico, Venezuela. I'm missing some, but that's okay. You get the idea. The logwood is also in the southern states, sometimes called the purple heartwood tree, because the inner trunk of the tree is, here's where it gets a bit confusing and time consuming. I'm going to say orange/purple. The logwood chips that I use come from a sustainable, ethical source. They are they're not forested. They're not cut down just to make chips for dye. They're actually, the chips are the result of the wood industry. Logwood is often used in beautiful things like turned bowls, beautiful wood pieces. If you go on Etsy, or just Google and look up logwood or purple heart, maybe do something like logwood bowl or logwood yarn bowl, maybe. I don't know, but I'm sure you'll find some. You'll see it's a beautiful purple wood. The chips that I use come from they're the chips from that industry. And I have a few here today to show you. Let's see if I can zoom in there. They are orange. So the chips are orange, and I soak them in water for generally a day. Sometimes it might be 2 days, sometimes it's 4 or 5 days, but a day. We'll say a day, and I heat them. I don't boil them. If you heat logwood too much, if you overheat it, that's a whole nother ball game. Sometimes I do overheat it on purpose, but you heat it up and it extracts a beautiful, lovely purple dye. Then I'll cool it, then I'll heat it again, sometimes once, twice, 3 times, kind of depends on the mood, to be honest. Then I strain it, and the beautiful, beautiful thing about logwood chips is I can reuse those chips many times. So then that strained liquid is used for the dye. That's it. I often use logwood on its own. I will often mix it with other things just to add a little bit of warmth, a little bit of purple. If I overheat logwood, it kind of goes to a silver gray, which I will often do as well. So sometimes you might buy logwood from me that isn't purple, it's gray, and I've done that on purpose. But yeah, a little bit about logwood today, a little bit about podcasters, a little bit about one and only one yarn, a few of my favorite things, and I think I've definitely used up all my time. I could keep yakking, I could tell you more about what I'm knitting, I could tell you so many more things, but I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to try to come on here and make 2 more videos before my next update. So before next Sunday, not in 2 days, but next Sunday, May 9th, I'm going to try to do 2 more videos with 2 more yarns, because field sock yarn that I talked about today is not a new yarn. You haven't been able to, maybe you've tried to get it and haven't been able to get it. I've had, I think, 2 shop updates with it, and it's gone. There's none in there now, but there'll be lots in the next update. But I have also 2 brand new yarns that I'm going to put in the next update that I will talk about separately, and I'll talk about them one at a time so I don't go on too much. So hopefully you will see me twice more here before the next update. I'm going to say thank you for joining me. Thanks for coming and visiting again. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the nice comments, the lovely feedback. I get a lot of questions, so I'll try to talk about, I will try to link what I talked about today below. I'll try to do better with that. So take care. I hope you're doing okay. I'm in Ontario here. We're in another lockdown. Not a full lockdown, so some things are open, but there's nothing non-essential is open. So our grocery stores are open and our drugstores are open, but there's no non-essential shopping. There's no in-store shopping or in-store dining. So we're all just keep on hanging on, keep on keeping on, keep on doing something lovely for yourself. Take care of you, because you're probably taking care of lots of other people. Do something nice. It's Friday. Maybe you have something nice planned for the weekend. Maybe knit a bit. Maybe watch a podcast. Maybe make a really strong coffee. Be well. Take care. And I will see you soon.